Are you like me and you love the convenience of ordering out, but between the inflated prices and tips and the less than healthy menu options, it really makes you think twice before ordering, right? Well, Gobble's here to help busy people like us enjoy healthier home cooking without the hassle. Instead of meal prepping and shopping, you just customize your weekly menu, get your delivery, and spend as little as 15 minutes to serve a delicious homemade dinner any night of the week. And this week, I made chicken fettuccine that was simply divine. And both Julie and I made it at the same time. I know, we're so cute. And we could not stop raving about how delicious it was. It was so easy to whip up in less than 15 minutes, and everything I needed was already in the box. For our wonderful listeners, we have a special deal to help you get started for less. See what a difference Gobble will make for your household. Right now, they're offering our listeners a fantastic limited time deal. Get $120 off across 4 boxes, plus free shipping and free cookies. The cookies are so good. Go to gobble.com/dateable podcast. That's GOBBLE.com/DATEABLE podcast today. This offer is not available on their home site, so don't miss out.
I have a confession. I used to have a really good sense of style that somehow went out the window because it just was so hard to make time to go shopping. And even doing online shopping and returns, it seriously stresses me out. And that's why I love Armoire, because it lets me rent high quality designer clothing for every occasion and regain my sense of style. Whether you're planning your outfit for a date night, packing for a conference, or in need of a gown for a black tie event, you will be the best dressed person in a room without ever having to brave a fitting room with fluorescent lights, which is my literal nightmare. What I love about Armoire is that the more I rent, the more on point the suggestions get, and Armoire starts to know my style and what will fit well. Right now, our listeners can give Armoire a try and get up to 50% off their first month. That's up to $125 off. Just visit armoire.style/dateable. That's armoire.style, ARMOIRE.style/dateable to get up to 50% off your first month and never worry about what to wear again. Try Armoire today.
Hi, I'm Yue Xu.
And I'm Julie Krafchick.
We're active daters turned dating sociologists.
Here to dive into everything modern dating and relationships.
Welcome to the Dateable Podcast. Hello, friends.
Welcome back to Dateable.
This is our last off-season I don't know. I just like it. Wow. I had no words to describe this in-between season.
What I'm learning for
betweener,
the next time we have this happen, we need a name. That's what I'm taking away from.
Okay, well, but how about we solicit from our listeners?
Yeah,
what do you want to call this in-between season? Is it the off-season? Is it the betweener? Is it the practice season? Is it the on the situationship season? Let us know what you prefer. But anyway, this is our last episode of this betweener season before we start season 19.
Woo! 19, and we have been hard at work recording, and this is really shaping up to be a good one. I feel like I've learned a lot already.
Mind blown. I think we're in a place to expand. And I think that season 19 is all about expansion. Mm-hmm. We've heard this fundamental advice for 18 seasons now. 19, we take it to the next level. Let's expand everything we know about love and relationships.
Yeah. I think the big theme too with this and our upcoming book, drop it, is we no longer have to live in this world where modern dating sucks and it's the worst. No. We're changing that because I'm sick of talking about how bad it is out there. I don't know about you.
Oh, no. I've muted certain text groups because of it. I don't want to hear. It doesn't move the needle. No. It doesn't make me feel good to complain about modern dating. And also nobody's doing anything about it. So what's the point of just keep complaining about it?
And I'm saying this because when I was single, like super single, I felt the same way. I'm not saying this because I'm like all high and mighty that I'm in a relationship. I don't mean it that way. Like I remember when I was single, there was a certain friend that I loved dearly, but I just couldn't deal with it anymore. I was like, there's no solution here. Like we're just fixating on the issues. And it's like at some point, that's not the energy I want to go in with anymore.
No, it's not. The energy is shifting. We feel it. It's palpable. but we have to hold on to it and we have to lead into it. And part of the energy shifting is what we talked about with Damona
Yeah.
on her podcast, Dates and Mates. This is the re-air of us on her show, but we talk about this shift in energy and like how dating should be evolving and should be different now. We don't like to use the word should, but this is the only time to use should. Dating should be evolving now.
Yeah, we definitely talk with dating coach Damona Hoffman all about, reframing our approach to dating and what needs to happen to move things forward in a way that just makes everyone happier, makes it a better place to be.
Yeah, if you've been eating the same breakfast every day and complaining about it, wouldn't you be searching for a new breakfast item? Like, would you honestly every day still be eating that same stale bread? Probably not, right? So,
Yeah.
like, let's put on this new hat and say it's time for a new breakfast. I don't know what that is yet, but I'm going to search for it. And whatever it is, it's going to be better than what I'm eating right now because what I'm eating right now sucks.
So there was an article that I saw the other day. Where was it? I don't remember.
Was it on the dateablepodcast.com?
No. It should have been, but it was basically like why everyone hates dating apps now. It was like New York Times or Atlantic, one of the big ones, and why just like everyone's over it. I admit that it's through a paywall, so I did not read the article. Doesn't that kill you? I feel like I always get them circulated and they're like, well, can you sign up for $4.99 a month? I'm like, no, I'm not paying the New York Times $4.99 a month unless they feature us. Maybe I will then.
Now we know where your priorities are, but you will get a Starbucks every day.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
See, now we know. Now we know a little bit about Julie.
Anyways, I thought it was an interesting article because we always see these types of like it kind of like struck me as like this is revolutionary. Like everyone's just fed up with dating apps, but it's like we've been hearing this for so long now.
Hello. Of course. Yeah, I know. We're just like in an echo chamber, and I hate that the media keeps perpetuating the negative, behavior and thoughts around modern dating because all it does is just make us hate modern dating even more to the point where some of you are even giving up on finding love.
Guys, I'm tired because I'm also thinking about something else I heard and I can't remember where I heard it from either, but there was something about
was it Washington Post also through a paywall?
It was something around like we're not frustrated by dating apps, but the people on the other side of them.
Oh, well, yeah, duh.
But I think it comes down to like the state we're all in, right? And I think that's why this reset is so important. The reset starts on this episode. Like we talk about those steps, but then also the larger reset that's going to be all through this season and then into our book, How to Be Dateable.
Have you pre-ordered our book coming out in January of 2025? We don't know what the world will be like in January 2025, but at least we know our book is coming out. Yeah. That is the one for sure positive thing that's happening beginning of the year. But you can pre-order the book now, and the pre-order game, you can call it, in publishing is very tricky. Pre-orders are pretty important because what you order today counts as our first week's numbers when we actually do go out into the world. So many bookstores, many publications, the lists, they look at our first week sales numbers. So anything you can do now, our future us and your future you will thank you. This is a lot of people thank you, the future you.
I mean, it really sets up the book's trajectory, right? That's ultimately what it's doing. Yeah. So it's not like it can't gain traction later. It absolutely can. And it's a long game, but it would help so much. So if you're already thinking about, I'm going to get this book anyways, I might as well just wait till January. Just pre-order. It goes such a long way. And you actually don't even get charged till January.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And then when you get that book delivered to your front steps, you'll go, wow, is it Christmas again? Well, what is this gift I've given myself from 6 months ago? You'll thank you.
My partner actually started reading it because we got the galley copy. And the galley copy is not like the finished one. And
Thank God.
he's like, do you want feedback? And I'm like, if there's errors, like, you know, like
Yeah, yeah,
anything
yeah.
like big at this point, we're probably not going to
Yeah,
make massive changes to. But he did find like one typo in there. I appreciated that.
yeah.
But
Was it his name? He's like, can I give you some feedback?
I'm under a
My name
fake
is
name.
not.
Just kidding. No. But I think what was like, so he had taken it on a trip, and then you know how
Uh-huh.
travel ends up being that like sometimes his plane got like mega delayed, and like by the time he got on the flight, like the last thing he felt like doing was reading. But then I
Yeah.
was kind of like, well, you kind of told me you were going to read this, and I got excited, and now like it didn't happen. So he started reading it, and he was like, what if I'm like sitting next to you as I'm reading it, and like I don't like it or something? Like, what am I going to say to you? And I'm like, just give me the honest truth, right? Like, that's
Yeah,
fine. Everything that people put out is never going to be for everyone.
exactly.
He did love it though.
Okay,
He's
good.
like been reading it actively every night. He's like, this is really
Okay,
good.
good.
And I'm really proud of you. And I'm like, oh.
Oh, I love that. That's so great. And he's not just saying that
No,
because
I
I know
gave him.
him. He would not say that. He would not lie about it. I don't think he's capable of lying
Very
about it.
early on when he was like kicking my ass at like cornhole, I was like, this guy's never gonna like do things just to
No,
do it, you know?
no. He is very authentic and very honest. Very honest. I'm glad that he loves it.
He
I know
does.
that you will too. If you love our podcast, you will love this book. And in fact, because our season 19 is going to be so great at expanding your world of love, this book is a perfect finale to our season 19.
Yeah, it
You're going to
really
be so
is.
revved up. You're going to take all the learnings from our next season into this book. And this book summarizes everything so beautifully for you with actionable ways to read, learn, and unlearn all the things from dating and to rewire how you look at modern dating. It's going
Yeah.
to be phenomenal if you do that combination, season 19 in our book.
And if you're looking for a book to start reading now, our guest
Oh.
today, you know.
Oh, I was like, oh, do we have a book out? Another book?
No, our guest today, Damona Hoffman, you know, we'll
Yeah.
re-air her episode or put it in our show notes so you can listen to the episode she did while on Dateable talking about her book, F the Fairy Tale. Her season for
Mhm.
Dates and Mates also comes out today, actually. So make sure to check them out as well. We always love our fellow author and podcast friends. I love that we can say author and podcast now.
We really jived with Damona. That's why we went on her show and she came on our show. We just feel like we have a lot of aligned beliefs, and we also see so clearly where we can get better and how people can enjoy dating. Damona is one of those people who came out on the other side of dating. She found the love of her life and she's married to him and they have kids, but her process of getting there, definitely a tumultuous one, but she came out on top because she really found a way to enjoy dating
Yeah.
and not just to be in the game of dating.
It was funny because when we got on the like recording with Damona, she's like, hey guys, good to see you again. I'm so glad we're recording. And we're like, this is the first time we're recording. And she's like,
Yeah.
I swear we've recorded together before. And we're like, I don't think we have.
I know.
She's like, I feel like I know you guys.
There is something so familiar about her. Did you find that as well?
I think it's just like we've been in the realm of each other. You know, we've obviously seen
Yeah.
content on Instagram, but also like listened to each other's podcasts. So it like feels like we know each other. But yeah, it definitely like relative. And then it turned out that you and her grew up in the same town.
Yes. Yes. Small town in Michigan. I know. What are the chances?
And then Dr. Alexandra Sullivan's producer also grew up in that town. It's just wild.
East Lansing, Michigan, for anybody who is wondering, wow, what is this?
That's where
mystical
everyone
town?
comes out of, East Lansing, Michigan.
Apparently, it's like one of the most non-remarkable towns, but it was a great place for me to understand American culture.
Yeah.
It was actually a very diverse place that I grew up in because we were on a college campus, Michigan State University. So I really enjoyed that. But yeah, Damona and I had that in common. And I just felt like this familiarity with her energetically. Like I know her and I've known her for years for some reason.
And it's funny because we went to Podcast Movement Conference that we've
Yeah.
referenced, and she was actually the keynote speaker. We
Yes.
did actually talk to her. We we messaged after. We just couldn't. I think she had like her like children's, like, wasn't it like spring break or something? So she was like
she
in
had,
and out kind of thing with that conference.
Yeah.
And it still felt like we got to know her because we were like sitting like front row for her speech, her presentation. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we're old friends for some reason.
One day we'll meet.
Do you think some people feel that way about us?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right? And that's totally fine. I'm not saying this as like, don't feel that way. We love it if you feel like you're friends with us and we haven't met yet, because we probably would get along really well.
Remember we had a past guest that we set up on a blind date with your like coworker, and she like was like, oh yeah, I'm friends with them, but we had never met. So it was definitely that. I hate parasocial. It's like a weird way to say it, but I think there is a bond that you feel. I know I feel this way when I listen to other podcasts, that you like feel like you do know the people and they are friends in a way.
I know. And am I Delulu? Something that I think about that. Am I Delulu? Because I think Kristen Bell and I are best friends. I just feel like, oh my God. Yeah, girl. Like, remember when we went out for drinks the other day and you said this funny thing? And then I had to stop and think, oh no, you didn't say it to me. You said it on your Instagram.
I was having a drink by myself and playing your Instagram reel.
I was just scrolling through your reels, having a drink by myself.
It is a weird world. Definitely a weird world, that's for sure.
That's okay. If you do that with our brunch talks, if you sit there scrolling through our brunch talks and you're eating brunch, that counts.
Yeah.
That counts. If we ever meet in person, you can say, remember the time we had brunch? And we'll go along with it because that is the truth.
I like it. That's a good plug too, because, new season comes new brunch talks, and we've already been taking some from the ratings and reviews. And we also had a bunch of people actually write in and be like, hey, I did review in Spotify or rate in Spotify. And they actually sent a screenshot, but you don't even have to send a screenshot. We'll go honor system. We believe you, but we know that in Spotify, you can't actually write anything. So feel free to, leave that rating there, email us, DM us, whatever it is. In Apple Podcasts, we'll do another shout out. We're really trying to get to that 1K review. So it really helps, multiple ways. You get better guests. Also, you get your questions answered. Also, you can say that you pre-ordered the book, and that gives you extra bonus points. UA did say in our first brunch talk, I'm revealing this a little early because it will obviously air before, but you will get bumped even higher on the list if you say that you also pre-ordered. A
secret hack.
Okay. Well, before we get into it, we have such a great episode in store for you. Announcements, howtobedateable.com. Go pre-order the book at Dateable Podcast. You know the drill. And let's hear it from some of our sponsors.
Hope you all are having the most magical summer, and you know what would make it even better? Some feel-good gummies from Via. Trusted by over 250,000 customers, Via's hemp products are the Swiss Army knife of wellness. Like, you need to chill out after a long day? Well, there's a Via gummy for that. Dealing with anxiety or stress? There's a gummy for that. Want to set the mood in the bedroom? Oh, there's definitely a gummy for that, because Via has developed a unique blend of pleasure-enhancing, libido-strengthening ingredients and a medium dose of THC all into one mind-blowing gummy called High Love, which is their best-selling gummy. It's also my go-to because it completely awakens my senses and increases blood flow, making me feel so darn good, either by myself or with a partner. If you're over 21, head to viahemp.com and use the code DATEABLE to receive 15% off. That's VIIA hemp.com and use the code DATEABLE, DATEABLE at checkout. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Take your passion and pleasure to a whole new level with High Love from Via Hemp.
Summer has flown by, and I can't believe we're already gearing up for fall. Fall is by far my favorite time of year, from the start of cuffing season to the fall fashion. Luckily, Quince makes shifting your wardrobe a breeze and a little too much fun because of their timeless and high-quality items that allows my wardrobe to stay fresh without blowing my budget. The best part, all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% 50% less than similar brands. I got their signature cashmere sweater and tan for only $50, and I cannot get over the price point for how silky soft the quality is. And I just feel so fancy that I have cashmere in my closet now, and even happier that I got it at that affordable price. By partnering directly with top factories, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. Make switching seasons a breeze with Quince's high-quality closet essentials. Go to quince.com/dateable for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/dateable to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/dateable. Okay, let's get into it with us on Dates and Mates.
Welcome back, lovers. I am so darn excited to bring these next guests to you. I gotta admit, y'all, I was having such a deep parasocial relationship with these two that I actually thought that they had been on the show before. And when we finally talked, they were like, no, we've never met. That is how much I love and consume their content. I truly thought that we knew each other, but now we do, and we are unstoppable. My guests today are Julie Krafchick and Yue Xu. They are active daters turned dating sociologists. They are the creators of DATEABLE, a podcast, community, and knowledge source for finding love in today's world. DATEABLE has been named one of the top podcasts about dating, love, and sex by the New York Times, the Huffington Post, Ask Men, and they've been featured on CNN, NBC News, MSNBC, BET, and New York Public Radio, amongst many others. And they have been running through my mind and my Instagram feed for years. Please help me give big smooches to Julie and Yue.
See, I'm going to give
I got
air kisses.
back. I rarely get kisses back. This is so gratifying to have like a reciprocal relationship happening already.
We are 100% aligned with you, Damona.
I'm so glad you're here. I have been listening to Dateable for a long time. How long have you been doing the podcast?
8 years.
Girl, we OG podcasters, right?
OG.
We've been in these dating podcast streets. And I know you've seen a lot of shifts, a lot of changes over the years in how people are dating, the tools people are using, and certainly the attitudes about dating right now. There is a question I get a lot on this podcast and on Instagram and anywhere people can send me questions and cry out to the world. Why is dating so hard today? Like anytime I tell people I'm a dating coach, they're like, oh yeah, isn't dating hard today?
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what you think. Julie, I see you nodding. Is dating so hard today?
I mean, yes, I think you're spot on that it has gotten hard. And I think some of it is expectations. Some of it is what we want our partners to be is more than maybe past generations asked, which is a good thing. I don't think that's a bad thing, but it puts more pressure on it. There's also this like always available mentality too, that it's like, you can't really escape dating. I think back in the day, you had to like go out to the right environment, or you didn't have text messages where someone could get in touch with you constantly. So it's this always available part just puts it like first and foremost for all of us so much. And there's a lot of like anxiety attached to that. Wow. And I think also just like the last piece I'll comment on, I'm sure Yue has her own thoughts too, is like the validate. I think it's more than just dating. It's like we live in such an achievement society, and ultimate goal is to be in a relationship. We've been fed this for years through society, through the Disney movies, pretty much everything you put in your book, Damona. Like this is what the message we've gotten. And I think a lot of us don't have the skills for relationships because we've been so focused on career and work and education and all that. So we think we can apply the same mentality to our love lives. And when we don't have that, it feels like a failure. So it goes so much deeper than just finding the right partner.
Wow. You really You took me on a journey there, Julie. Seriously, because I think dating is harder today because we make it harder, because it feels harder. But you brought up some really, really good points about this always on mentality. You're so right. It used to be, and this is kind of with everything, like you were just saying, it used to be you could enter a space in a certain mindset. And now everything is overlapped. Everything is happening concurrently. And I've said before on the show, like we're on communication overload, but we're kind of on everything overload.
Yeah.
And yet it's like we've been snacking and we're full, but we're like still hungry. And we're like, how does this work? Yue, I want to know your take on this. Is dating so hard today? And if so, do you have any other insights as to why?
I love the snacking analogy. The more we snack, the hungrier we get because we feel like there's more. There's more for us to snack on. I think it's twofold. One is we live in one big echo chamber with social media, the internet. Everyone's always echoing each other's misery when it comes to dating. And guess what? Misery loves company. Back in the day before internet, if you had problems with dating, you just tell your neighbor or your friends or your colleagues. You're not like broadcasting it out to the world. Now we hear influencers, celebrities, people who have massive influence and impact telling us about how hard dating is. So then it validates what we're feeling.
And we're doing it publicly too. Because then not only are we having that experience on social media where everyone can see it, but like they're also seeing who we date. Like I remember the shift, because I started writing dating profiles like 17 years ago. And I remember the shift from like when it was on the desktop site.
Yes.
And you went to it, as Julie said, you went to your computer, you logged in, and then it was like, now is online dating time. And then I remember the shift as the stigma started to diminish and people started bringing their apps with them. And then they're like, what do you think about this guy? Maybe you should swipe for me. And it became a public experience, let alone the whole like soft launch, hard launch sharing of relationships online, which makes it so much harder to disentangle yourself. So I didn't mean to cut you off because I want to hear the second part, but that just so resonated for me.
It's so true. And it's so great to have been in the space for as long as we have to see that shift, to understand where we came from, right? To recognize our roots in all of this. The second fold is I really believe that starting with Gen X is the first generation that truly dated for love. Before Gen X, there was still like survival things you needed to satisfy. And people married for sometimes transactional reasons, purely for survival. But as we live longer and as our lives are better, we are dating for love. We are marrying for love. And what does that even mean? We don't have a precedence for something like this. So we're kind of all just kind of like the blind leading the blind in trying to find what is love and what does that mean for us for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. And we do put a lot of pressure on our partners to be all of the things. I fancy myself a little bit of a relationship anarchist, which is like, people are like, what? How romantic is that? And as someone who's been happily married and I've been with my husband 20 years, and I firmly believe that he doesn't need to be my best friend, my tennis pro, my business partner, my life partner, my sexual partner, my co-parent. That's so much pressure to put on one person. And while I don't mean like relationship anarchist in, sometimes it's used a lot in like poly spaces, but I just mean that I see daters, first of all, dating by list of like, let's check all of these boxes. And you're so right, Yue, that when we started dating for love, we also layered all these other expectations on it. It's like, I need to date for love, but I also need this one person to hold so much for me.
Right. Be everything.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure.
It is. We see people like on like date one trying to see if this person can be their everything. And that's just near impossible to know. Like time is not something that we give each other anymore.
So explain to me and to the Dates and Mates audience what the mindset shift is. And you and I both talk a lot about intentional dating, but sometimes I think it gets misunderstood between being intentional about wanting a relationship and being so focused on that outcome of getting into a relationship. It's hard to walk that middle ground between I want this and I'm approaching this with clarity and like this is all consuming. Julie, can you explain?
Yeah, no, intentional dating is the biggest buzzword, and it's something that we hear all the time, and no one could really wrap their head around what it fully means. To me, I think it means being in touch with your needs, knowing what's important to you, and staying true to them. And that sounds like easier said than done, but I think a lot of us, including myself for a long time, just went into dating being like, oh, I'll know it when I see it. Or, if the chemistry's there, it'll all work out. And I'm preaching to the choir. I know you feel the same way, but I think actually understanding like what is important to you, that's beyond just, I want a relationship, but I want to feel this way with a partner. I want my future to look in a way, like have a vision of it. And if someone's aligned with it, I think the difference is though, with the intentionality versus outcome driven is that you can be intentional about wanting a relationship and wanting deeper commitment, but also not attached to the outcome that each person needs to give that to you. So for example, if you have someone, let's say for you, you're like, I need someone that is consistent, they show up and they want to be in a committed relationship. If you have that person that you have like off the charts chemistry with, but then you don't hear from them for a week, that's a sign to leave. That's a sign to be like, this is not aligned with what I'm looking for. Yet being outcome driven, it's almost like you're trying to force that down, that outcome.
Yeah, I think what I hear you saying is we need to bring that intentionality to each individual moment.
Yes.
Along the dating journey. So if you're outcome focused, you're just looking at where you're headed, and then you're kind of, I was going to make a sports analogy, but it's pointless because I
do it. You love them. You got to do it.
Fumbling the ball. I don't know. I love. Okay, if you will, I know we talked about this, Yue, on Dateable when I was on your show, but you gave a really excellent tennis analogy that I really latched onto it. Can you share it here?
I would love to, because I've been sharing it all around. The world needs to hear this.
Yes.
I got into tennis recently, and as a beginner, one of the biggest mistakes that beginners make is that when you hit the ball, you don't keep your eye on the ball. You actually look at where you think it's going to hit. And my coach is always like, keep your eyes on the ball. Watch it actually make contact with your racket before you see where it lands. And it's such a great analogy for how we date today. Before we even assess if there's a connection, if you truly even like this person, we're already looking 5 years ahead. Do I have a future with this person? Do they want a relationship? Do they want marriage and kids? When we haven't really even looked at the contact here. Like, has my racket even hit the ball yet?
I'm a terrible tennis player, much to my dad's dismay. He would take me out every weekend, try to hit balls, and I couldn't do it. But it's actually a really good analogy, because at that time in my life, I couldn't make contact with the ball in dating either. Seriously, I grew up in the Midwest. Shout out East Lansing, Michigan.
Me too.
Lovely.
What?
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Okay, mind blown, but I mean, okay. So growing up in East Lansing, a lovely place to grow up. However, the standard of beauty did not look so much like me or you, Yue. It was very Midwest. It was like blonde hair, blue eyes, and a body type I did not have. And I was like, I'm undateable. I'm undateable here. That was the message that I got from the environment that I grew up in. And it took me really finding myself, moving to California where I did see other people who looked like me, and really, really leaning into my authentic self to realize that I was dateable. And then it took me finding online dating. I almost said dating apps. Finding online dating to realize that there were so many options out there
Yeah.
for me,
Mm.
and that it was okay if the East Lansing boys weren't into it.
Their loss.
Their loss, but that was also my own editorial. I don't know. So, what do you think makes someone dateable in the digital age today?
It's exactly what you're saying here. It's one, knowing who you are and then taking accountability for your own actions, knowing what you're in control of, and then also knowing that you drive your own life. There's nobody else in your driver's seat. I think what sometimes we hear from daters about what they think dateability is appealing to the masses. Someone who can get as many matches as possible, who's really good at dating, who can get that second or third date. That's not a dateable person. That's just an expert dater.
Yeah.
They may not be on the road to a healthy relationship, but someone who is dateable may not be going on that many dates or has that many matches, but who is so clear about who they are, what they want, and then they can also take responsibility for their actions.
Oh my gosh. Everybody listening, write that down. Write that down, because we do, especially with the social aspect or the public aspect of our dating lives that you were talking about earlier, we do sometimes feel that pressure of everybody else is doing this. Everybody else is going out on 3 dates a
Mhm.
weekend and not me.
Mhm.
And then we start to internalize that, which, probably was part of what was happening to me in my,
Mhm.
undateable Midwest phase. Like, I thought, oh, everyone here is doing this but me.
Yeah.
So then that really impacts your self-esteem and your ability to really show up as your authentic self. Anything to add on that, Julie?
I mean, this might sound weird, but I think UA and I have been doing this now for 8 years. And our biggest takeaway of dating is that you actually don't need to be good at dating.
No.
In fact, it might actually be hurting you if you get really good at quote unquote dating, what we've been told we're supposed to do. And I think actually that is the root of why we have so many people that are dissatisfied and think that dating is so hard, is because everything we're doing today is around disconnection when all we want more than anything is to feel connected.
When you are dating based on, quote, the rules or a strategy or a hack or just doing it by rote, then that's where it becomes detrimental.
Yeah, it's what UA was saying of trying to appeal to the masses, measuring success by number of dates. If you're measuring success based on what you're saying, Damona, like you could go on a date and be like, this wasn't a fit, but I was my authentic self. I learned how to communicate well.
Right.
That's success. But a lot of daters that are getting caught up in the whirlwind of dating, the dating hamster wheel, as we like to call it, they're not thinking that way. It's like, how do I get to the next date? How do I get more dates? How do I get more matches? And
Right.
that is the problem.
Well, there's also that addiction, that technological
Yeah.
addiction to the dopamine hit you get when you get a match and when then you get in the text and like you were saying at the beginning, Julie, like it's the constant dopamine drip
Yeah.
of like, I need some sort of validation,
Yes.
like right now. I can't wait until late. I need it right now. Give me my hit. So that's changed.
Yeah. And I'm so pro apps. I met my partner on an app, but I also recognize they're designed that way. I'm an app designer by trade before Dateable. And there is a reason why you're getting those notifications. There's a reason why you're getting the "it's a match" message. And that distracts you from actually connecting with people. It puts
Ooh.
you into that mentality. It's the hooked model.
Okay,
Yeah.
I need to get underneath that, because as someone that understands the tech side of it and has still been able to navigate digital dating to be able to make a connection, what are people doing wrong with the apps? How can people use the apps more effectively?
Don't let them control you. I think
Yeah.
that's like ultimately the way they're designed is to control you. The best thing I ever did was get notifications off of my phone
Yes.
and use them when I wanted to use them. But okay, by the end, before I met my partner, when I was back in the dating space, like dating myself, I was really only using apps on Sunday nights. Like that was
Oh.
my designated time. I was not beholden to them. I was not using them. I was not serial dating. I went on dates maybe once a week, but I feel like I was using them in a way to foster connection, not, the numbers game.
I always get this question too. Like people are like, how did you know he was different? How did you know he was the one? Which I did not know he was the one on our first date, certainly. I
Yeah.
always talk about slow love. But I knew he was different. And
Different.
I hear from a lot of people like, oh, because of the endless swipe, no one wants to settle down. Well, if that's true, then
No.
how did you make a connection on a dating
Right.
app? How did I? How did
Yeah.
so many of my clients and listeners? Was there a moment where you're like, oh, this is different?
Oh, yeah, 100%. But I think the only way, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about intentionality. I was at a place that I knew myself so well at this point. I was also comfortable being single. I remember telling you, it was like during the pandemic, I'm like, if this is what life is single, it's not that bad.
Great,
Like, I'll be okay. I'm doing pretty well. So I was going in with someone that would only be additive, but I also knew what I needed. And for the first time ever, I put more emphasis on consistency and looking for that in a partner because I knew that was imperative to me. I'd been in an on again, off again relationship for 5 years that was anything but consistent.
Girl, same.
And it was, and it was like
right before I met my husband. And I was like, what am I doing with my life?
Right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I was like, okay, this is what I need. Can you be here? And he was like, no.
No.
Yep.
And I was like, that's great. That's great. And I thought I would be devastated, but instead I was empowered because then I
Good.
said,
Yes.
now I've created the space to move out of this gray zone and into clarity and consistency, like you just said. So
Yeah,
important.
it sounds so boring to be like, oh, and that, of course, that's not all my partner has, clearly. But I think why consistency is so important is because I never questioned like when he was going to message me or when our next date was. It was just very out in the open. Like he'd ask me on the date on our date. And that allowed me to be comfortable, to feel safe, to feel secure, to form a relationship with someone because I wasn't caught up in all that anxiety and drama of like, does this person like me? Do they not? Everything was on the cards and I was just able to connect with someone.
And just to add to this too, because as someone who watched Julie through this, and Damona, I'd be curious if you had a close friend who was nearby when you met your husband. It's not so much that he was different. It was just that he made Julie different. Like
Mhm.
Julie was a dater during this time. Like the way she would talk about him, she wasn't caught up in who he was or the potential. It was more like, oh, I have these needs. And if he's meeting these needs,
Yeah.
and if he's displaying behaviors of a great partner, then I'll keep seeing him. It was more like on her, you know? And
Yeah.
I would love to hear if your friend Damona, someone close by, would have seen that same shift in you.
I guess so, because I actually wrote an F the Fairy Tale about how my roommate met Seth, I think on our like second or third date. Please don't judge me.
No judgment.
Actually, we did not have sex, but he was at my apartment. And he left and she was like, he's the one. And I was like, what? No, he's like
Wow.
this guy that I'm dating. Like, whatever. I don't know. Like, so early on. But I really have always wondered, I'm like, how did you know? What did you see? And maybe it was, as you just said, Yue, maybe it was the shift in me
Yeah.
Yeah.
that she noticed. Because I mean, on the surface, like, how would you know? Like, you met this guy for
Right.
5 minutes. But she was right. She was right. And
I forget where I heard this, but it was like someone said, and I feel bad, I'm not giving them credit, but it's like instead of looking at, the other person, when you get introduced to a friend's new partner, instead of looking at the person that they're introducing you to, like the person they're dating, look at your friend
Yeah.
and see how they are feeling and reacting. That's the sign of if they're with the right person.
Yes.
I'm having a whole lot of aha moments here in this conversation. There was one other thing I really wanted to dive into. I've talked on the show a lot about how my husband and I also have a very non-traditional relationship. Like, I've been like F the fairy tale for a long time because I knew that mold of, traditional wife was just never going to fit me. Like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. And I was really intrigued, Yue, when I was reading more about your personal story of how you came to terms with redefining these stories and gender roles and even, what a successful partnership could look like. Can you talk a little bit about that journey?
Absolutely. I was a dating coach for a long time, and I thought I was really good at my job because I was really good at playing into the gender roles. I knew that if guys did a certain A, B, and C, the woman would then swoon and fall for him. And yes, it worked in the short term, but I realized that these were not sustainable ways of maintaining a relationship. A relationship is about two people. It's not about how you trick someone into liking you or do all the things to make them fall for you. So, throughout the years and doing this podcast, Julie has seen this shift in the way
Yeah.
I look at dating too. Is I used to have very strict gender roles. This is what you must do if you're a woman or if you're a man. I've just kind of played around with that. What happens if I step out of that role? What happens if I allow my partner to take on more of what I thought was the female role? And in my last relationship, that was 5 years, we did a lot of dancing around that. What makes sense for us? And even though that relationship didn't continue, but in those 5 years, it was like a relationship incubator. I was able to learn that, my God, a relationship works if two people make it work and you find a way to make it work. And to the outside person, it may seem untraditional. It may seem eccentric or interesting or unique. These are all the descriptors that people give. It's just a projection of what they think a relationship should look like. So get rid of the shoulds. You do what makes sense for you two.
Yeah, that is such a relatable story though, Yue. And I love how you both really bring so much of yourselves to this podcast. And while you do have an expertise in dating that you share through your conversations, through your interviews, there's so much heart in the personal journey as
Yeah.
well. So, man, thank you for coming here, for giving me all these light bulb moments, and thank you for just even though we've never met in person, I feel like this is like girl talk.
Thanks, Damona.
Thanks, Damona.
Follow them on Instagram at DATEABLE Podcast, DATEABLE Podcast, and be sure to check out Dateable the podcast wherever you're listening to Dates and Mates right now. We'll put those links for you in the show notes. In a moment, I'll be back to answer a relatable, dateable dating question. Do I need to take a break from dating to get my personal life in order? I'll give you the answer in just a sec.
Do scents evoke memories and transport you back to being on that amazing vacation again? To me, when I use Osea's Undaria algae body oil, I'm instantly on the beach in Greece again. With its all-natural, uplifting notes of mango, mandarin, grapefruit, lime, and cypress, it's hard not to be in a really good mood. But this body oil is so much more. It is clinically proven to instantly improve skin elasticity and deeply moisturize, leaving skin silky and soft. And you know how people covet that post-vacation glow? This is exactly what I achieved after using this body oil. It goes on so smooth and doesn't leave my skin oily or greasy. No wonder it's Osea's #1 best-selling product. Get healthy, glowing skin for summer with clean, vegan skin and body care from Osea. Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code DATEABLE at OseaMalibu.com. You'll get free samples with every order and free shipping on orders over $60. Head to OSEAMalibu.com and use the code DATEABLE for 10% off.
Why are so many dogs suffering from health issues? Actress Katherine Heigl, who's helped save over 16,000 dogs through her foundation, says she's seeing more issues with dogs' joints, odors, and health than ever before. And after doing a ton of research, she feels there's one place we can look to support any dog's health: their food. So she decided to create something she could actually feel good about feeding her dogs. It's called Superfood Complete. Superfood Complete is made with over 30 of the healthiest ingredients on the planet, including several superfoods vital to your dog's health. Badlands Ranch also sponsors the Jason Debus Heigl Foundation, which has helped rescue thousands of dogs and place them in loving homes. Dogs across America are trying this food and experiencing amazing health benefits. Go to badlandsranch.com/save50 and order right now to get up to 50% off your regular price order with a 90-day money-back guarantee. If you want your dog to experience all these incredible things, go to badlandsranch.com/save50 today.
So we have a very relatable and very thorough question that was texted to me by a listener.
Dear Damona. Damona, help me.
Our question of the day comes to us in a text message from an anonymous listener. She says, coming into 2023, I quit a very stressful and draining but decent paying job for 2 part-time jobs that I later found would each burn me out and set me back financially. Now, in 2024, I, like many educated and capable millennials, am struggling to jump back into the corporate and or otherwise known as safer and more financially secure jobs. I've been dating, and despite my struggle to reposition myself back to a place of financial stability, I recently hit my opinion of a rock bottom. My financial life is a mess, and I'm currently living paycheck to paycheck, living at home with my parents with increasing credit card debt merely to get by. I'm very educated and driven, so I know that this isn't forever, even though it feels like I'm stuck. I've put off love and dating in the past many times to focus on my financial life, and admittedly, it's never been this low. I desire healthy love and companionship now more than ever in my life. Plus, I'm approaching 30, so I don't want to get stuck in a loop of not dating at all, which will put me completely out of the game of finding my person. I know money isn't everything, but I can't help feeling like I may have to sit out dating again for a while to make improvements. The last 2 guys I dated were a bit of a reflection of this type of financial turmoil I've been experiencing, and I'm quite tired of financial struggles in my personal and dating life. Should I sacrifice the next 6 months to a year to become a better me financially for the type of man I want to attract? Well, Anonymous, first of all, thank you for listening, and thank you for trusting me with your love advice, especially when you're at a place where you feel so low and you feel so frustrated. And I know that there are other people out here listening to this podcast right now who can relate to exactly what you're saying, because this is a tough time for everybody. Coming out of the pandemic, there's a lot of financial insecurity for a lot of people. There's a lot of just life insecurity that we're dealing with. So I want you first to know that you are not alone. And it may feel that way because you're living with your parents. You may be sort of in a little bit of a bubble where you're not talking to people your age and your position of life to remind yourself that your experience is not an outlier. That doesn't mean that we want you to stay in this place where you have so much pain and frustration. But I just want to remind you that it is important to also be in community with people who understand where you're at in life that you can level up with together. So here's the deal with finances, and some of you may have heard me talk about this before. Money is a proxy for other things. You're already seeing it in the kind of people that you've been attracting through your financial turmoil. And I think that's really an astute observation that the guys you're dating seem to be a reflection of that. I don't know if you mean that they are also struggling financially or if you mean the opposite, like where you're going out and seeking people that have financial means because you don't feel that secure in that area of your life. And then you're ignoring the other pillars and matching with people that aren't really a great fit for you long term. Either way, and it may be a pendulum swing between those two things. Either way, I think you can work on both parts of yourself simultaneously because they are the same part. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not, oh, we've got to get finances together because then I'll be in a better place and then I'll be ready to date. And I say this for anyone that has whatever that thing is for you. It may be, I need to be financially secure. It may be, I need to lose 10 pounds. It may be, I need to finish school, or whatever that thing is that you always put your attention towards instead of really feeling into what you want in the relationship and how the people you're meeting are making you feel. that big thing is going to get all of the attention. So let's move the money out of the way for a second and really talk about how you can find your sense of self, because it feels like you may have also lost that. And a lot of people lost that also within the pandemic, where you had an identity that was wrapped up in your corporate life. That identity is gone. You had an identity as an independent adult. That identity is now gone as you're living with your parents. So as we look at these layers of who we are, we need to really be able to see all those parts of ourselves. And it's okay to mourn that past identity. And it's also okay to pursue a new identity. But nothing happens without a plan. If you are burned out and frustrated with your 2 jobs and you want to instead be in a safer, financially secure job so that that isn't something that you have to worry about. And it sounds like it is dire. It is of dire, utmost importance that you get out of this position of living paycheck to paycheck. And that might mean for you a financially secure job. And then you have to figure out, well, what are the negatives to that? Like, why did you leave that world in the first place? Because I'm sure there's something that drove you away from that. And then how can you redesign that so that you can have your cake and eat it too? You can have your financial security and you can be in a job that is not burning you out. Are there places where you need to put up different boundaries? And then are there specific goals you need to set? Financial goals of like, I need to get out of credit card debt, because like if you have the benefit of being able to live with your parents and have some of those expenses mitigated, what can you do to sort of stop the hemorrhaging of your financial life while you have that time with them? And when you make a plan that you can follow through on, and again, get in community with people who are in a similar situation, and when you feel more confident in yourself and you really know from a deep level that your worth is not tied to your financial stability. Money is not the thing that gives you your confidence. Money is the reflection of your confidence. Everything is going to shift for you. So, you didn't get here overnight. You're not going to unravel it overnight, but you can make a plan. You can take bold steps towards that plan, and you can begin to shift your life one day at a time, one choice at a time, one moment at a time. And I promise you, when you are feeling that level of confidence within yourself, you're not going to have to worry about the dating part, because you will be that magnetic to the people that see the self-work that you are doing. Do you need to push pause and say, make a declaration? And I say this in After Fairy Tale, I don't like dating breaks. I don't like making a declaration of like, I'm just not going to connect with anybody. I'm not going to talk to anybody. I don't think that's healthy. But if you can put some tent poles around the choices that you make that make you feel that confidence that you want to feel, and the choices that erode that confidence, that will guide where you should be putting your attention. Thank you, Anonymous. We appreciate your question and we send you so much love. And I'm sending so much love out to each and every one of you. This was episode 501 of Dates and Mates. If you have a question, you can send it to me anonymously. You can send it to me in a DM with a voice memo. I love hearing your voice. You can message me on TikTok, X, Facebook, and Instagram at Damona Hoffman. You can send me a text like this anonymous listener did, or leave me a voicemail at 424-246-6255. We will be back again next Tuesday with a very special episode. It is my 17th wedding anniversary, and we have a brand new guest who will be joining us for the first time on Dates and Mates, my 13-year-old daughter, Addie. She'll be sharing what she's learned about dating and relationships as the daughter of a certified dating coach, and she'll give me insight into the questions that the next generation of daters are having in a supersized Dear Damona segment that will be surprisingly relatable for all ages. Until next week, I wish you happy dating.
The Dateable podcast is part of the Frolic Media Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frolic.media/podcasts. You can follow us on Instagram at Dateable Podcast and visit dateablepodcast.com for access to all the episodes and our premium programs. Also, make sure to subscribe today if you haven't already on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform so you are the first to get all the latest episodes. And most importantly, stay dateable.
Before you leave this episode, just a reminder to head over to dateablepodcast.com/programs if you want to get in on our Meeting People IRL Masterclass and see what else we have in store.